Okay, live. Hey guys, my name's Kwoklyn. I'm a third generation restaurateur, a cookbook author. So I've actually written 5 books so far. 3 have been published. I've got a 4th one coming out next year. So if you're into Chinese takeaway food or just Chinese food in general, I do advise that you either go onto my website, which is kwoklynwan.com, or you can of course go and pick up a copy of the book. Also for you guys, if you've got Amazon Prime, if you put Chinese takeaway into the search bar, you'll see that I've got a TV show called Kwoklyn's Chinese Takeaway Kitchen, which is completely free for Amazon Prime subscribers. So I've been asked by the lovely people of the Royal Voluntary Service, isn't it? Yeah, so, to do this cook along. So they've asked me to do a healthy dish. So this dish is very healthy, standing here at 26 stone, but you know, horses for courses. And if you guys are into your healthy eating, by all means, everything's... There is no such thing as bad food. It's all about moderation, which I'm still learning at 47 years old. This dish is called a chicken Yuk Sung. It's normally served as part of a meal and normally as an appetizer or even a starter. We are using chicken today. Chicken breast, of course, there's no fat on there at all. And all I've done, in fact, if you're doing this cook along, if you want to go and cut your chicken now, it'd be a good idea. And this is just cut into a small 1/2 centimetre dice. Now, the reason I do this off camera is just that raw chicken on a chopping board isn't good. And in this little studio kitchen that I've got here, I don't have washing facilities. So that's why I always cut my chicken beforehand. So by all means, guys, go away and cut that now. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. We are going to prep everything else on camera. The dish is served in lettuce leaves. I'm using Iceberg lettuce, and I've just taken a head of lettuce and very carefully ran the leaf under cold water. And what happens is it peels away from the whole lettuce. 3 would be plenty. This is just for me. And all I've done, a little bit of fanciness. I've got a pair of scissors and I've just trimmed off the excess. Of course, you don't need to do that, but it does look pretty when you do. You'll also need some onion. So my onions are very tiny, what the co-op are doing at the moment, but that's their Spanish onion, which is like a mini Spanish onion. So I've got some onion. You'll need some carrot. Now the carrot's going to add colour and crunch. When we eat, it's all about the flavour explosion and texture in the mouth. So we're always trying to sort of see if it's smooth, and it's crunchy and it's crispy, and then the ice cold lettuce leaf, and then you've got the creamy cashews. It's all about that mouth sensation, okay? Now, in all Cantonese cuisine, we use 3 main aromats, okay? The first one being spring onions, the second one, garlic, and the third, ginger. Now, you'll find in Cantonese cuisine, sometimes they use all 3, like this dish, and other times you'll only use one of the 3. But normally, if it's a Cantonese dish, it will have ginger, garlic, and spring onion. And lastly, we have water chestnuts. Okay, if you can't source these, I mean, I was very lucky. The local co-op sells these, so you know, pop into your local supermarket, and you should be able to buy all of the ingredients. So you will need some water chestnuts. Again, it just offers that little bit of crunch in the dish. Okay, now for the seasoning, we're not going to use salt. And if you are trying to be healthy, by all means eliminate this, but we are going to put in a little bit of sugar. Now the sugar, it gives it that texture in the mouth. It's like a mouth sensation. It just makes it a little bit more sticky in the mouth. It just makes it nice. Also as well, that sweetness of the dish, you know, we all crave sugar. I think it's sort of like the most addictive thing on the planet, isn't it, sugar? So, so a little bit of sugar. Oyster sauce. I do recommend, if you can get some oyster sauce, go and get some oyster sauce. If it's got Chinese writing over it, doesn't matter what brand, you'll tend to find that it's going to taste a lot better than the stuff that you can buy in a local supermarket. Now, I know some of the larger supermarkets will sell authentic Chinese ingredients. So I do recommend, if you can go and buy traditional oyster sauce, it tastes 10 times better than the stuff that your normal supermarket will sell, purely because they're not cooking it out properly. They're using sugars and molasses and these other things to sweeten it, whereas you know, the way the Chinese do it is they cook the oysters right down, real oysters in oyster sauce, believe it or not. So we have dark soy sauce. Now, the dark soy sauce is going to give the dish a little bit of color, but also that background umami, okay? So you're going to need some dark soy sauce. There is a difference. Light soy sauce is salty and used for seasoning. Dark soy sauce, sweetness, umami, and color, okay? Now, I have Shaoxing rice wine. So this is fermented rice turned into a wine. If you haven't got Shaoxing rice wine, and if you're not cooking Chinese food on a regular basis, why would you? You can use dry sherry, even a little bit of red wine. It's just to give the end of the dish that little alcoholic background note, okay? The fermented rice wine is very pungent. It's got a unique taste altogether, and it's not cheap. It's about £7 a bottle, but we will only use a tablespoon in this dish, and in most dishes it's only a tablespoon or two, so it lasts forever. Okay, and to finish the dish at the very end, sesame oil. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you guys have gone out and you've tried to cook Chinese food before, and you're always wondering, doesn't quite taste like my local Chinese takeaway? Well, some of the recipes out there tell you to add the oil at the beginning and to cook in it. It's rubbish. I nearly swore then. I'm so glad I didn't. That's rubbish. The sesame oil is used as a seasoning, okay? And we put it at the very end of the dish. The heat goes off. We drizzle in a little bit of sesame oil, and it's going to give it that background nutty note. And of course, we talked about cashew nuts. We're just going to put a sprinkle of cashew nuts just on the dish to finish, and happy days. So for you guys chopping your chicken, go and chop your chicken now. We'll do the veggie all together. And if you've got any questions, by all means, please ask. Hi, Lynn, Kelsey, Julie, and Boo. How are you guys? And today I'm cooking my chicken Yuk Sung. So the recipe can be found in my Chinese takeaway cookbook, or if you head on over to kwoklynwan.com, click on recipes or Chinese takeaway cook along, the dish is in there. You'll see it's a nice picture of a lettuce leaf filled with lovely chicken mixture and cashew nuts. For you vegetarians out there, so I mentioned that I'm cooking with chicken today, which, you know, of course, I like chicken. But if you want, you can substitute this so easily. So if you're vegetarian or even vegan, you can swap out your oyster sauce first of all, because obviously you don't want to use oysters, but you can buy a mushroom stir-fry sauce, or you can make it yourself. Again, the recipe can be found in my veggie and vegan Chinese takeaway cookbook. And the recipe isn't available on my website yet, but I will put it on there after in the next week or two. So you guys have got it for reference if you don't want to go and buy the book. To supplement the protein, you can use cauliflower. So just break your cauliflower into very small florets. You could even use broccoli. You could use tofu. You could use tempeh. You could use corn. So any substitute really for the protein that you like as a vegetarian or vegan. For you pescatarians out there, king prawns chopped up into a small dice work perfectly in this dish. Same recipe you did on Steph's Packed Lunch. It is actually. So yeah, so if you were watching Steph's Packed Lunch last Tuesday, I cooked this dish as well. They asked me to cook this dish. And again, it's a nice healthy dish. Unlike Steph, so Steph, if you are watching, you don't pour the whole lot into a lettuce leaf. The mixture that I'm doing today will fill 3 lettuce leaves, and the idea being is that you kind of create like a lettuce burrito. So you add some filling and then you roll up your lettuce leaf and you eat it. Steph literally poured the entire dish into one lettuce leaf, which it was so funny trying to watch it, eating it on live TV. Okay, so with all Chinese cookery and all Chinese food and any dish that you're cooking, it's all about preparation. Once our wok gets hot, it literally takes 8 to 10 minutes to cook the dish, okay? You can do it in 6 minutes. I did it in 6 minutes on Steph's Packed Lunch, but everything was pre-chopped. The prep, depending how quick your knife skills are, can be done in 5 to 10 minutes. So that's what we're going to start off with today, okay? So before I chop any veg, let me just talk about the aromats again. So, and actually, has everybody chopped their chicken that is doing the cook along? So I just want to make sure that you guys aren't missing this or stressing because you're busy chopping and I'm still talking and doing stuff. I'll have a swig of Pepsi Max while you're doing that. So I can hear something being written down. Can I use a frying pan? If not, well, yeah, of course you can. You can use a frying pan or even a large base saucepan. It'd be absolutely fine. At the end of the day, we're frying it off at the bottom. So as long as there's a large enough surface area, you can see in my wok, the actual cooking surface here is only that little bit there, really. Of course, the heat does radiate up the sides. In Hong Kong, China, back in the old days, we would use, you can see this wok here, it's completely oval or round. That's because it's sat on top of a open fire, and the fire could literally lick up around the outside, and that's why it's nice and thin. And that's another reason why we chop the ingredients so small, because of course that intense heat, everything cooks really quickly. Netherton, you're making me hungry. There you go. This is a Netherton wok, as you can see. So this one, I use this one for when I do my live demos and I'm using a higher heat source. I tend to find that this is the only one that will work properly on those. So for traditionalists out there, guys, carbon steel wok, that's pre-seasoned, okay? Now, aromats. Now, one more question. Minced chicken, you can mince the chicken. I like a small dice. Remember, we talked about textures. If your chicken is completely minced, you lose the texture of the chicken. So therefore, I buy a chicken breast and I chop it into a 1/2 centimeter dice. So I've got dices of chicken approximately that big. Therefore, when I'm eating it, I know that I'm eating chicken. If I use a mince, it could be chicken, it could be pork, it could be whatever, any other mince really. So that's just personal preference. In the restaurants, we always dice the chicken and never pre-minced. So back to the aromats. Now, if like me, actually, when I was younger, I had a high tolerance to garlic. Now, if I eat garlic, it tends to stay on my palate for ages, like literally all night. And then I'm brushing my teeth the following morning and I can still taste garlic. Now, we can combat that and still use garlic. What I'm going to do, I'm literally going to maybe chop these garlic cloves into 3 pieces, 2 or 3 pieces. So when I'm eating the dish, I can actually pick it out because it's big enough to pick out. If you like a really strong hit of garlic, mince it right down. So chop it one way, then chop it another way, then get your chopper and literally just resting your hand on top, literally just chop it and mince it through so you get a really fine dice. Same goes with the ginger. If you're not a big fan of crunching on ginger, chop it into a really fine dice. Therefore, when it cooks, you won't even know it's in there. Or you can just chop slices, okay? And the slices, when you see it in the dish, you can then pick it out. Spring onions, I leave these spring onions approximately 3 to 4 centimeters in length because I want to be able to see it and eat it. So I need to know it's in the dish. So spring onions. First of all, I'm using whites and greens. All I've done, I've cleaned and chopped the ends off. I'm just going to chop these in half, place the 2 bundles together. And like I say, roughly, remember, this is our cooking. It doesn't need to be 100% precise. You're eating it, so you chop it how you like. So I can either chop it into a slice, or like me, I'm going to do 2 centimeter pieces, say, approximately 1 to 2 centimeter pieces. And there's my spring onion pre-chopped. With the water chestnuts, again, because we're going to be using we're going to literally take one of these leaves and we're going to place 2 tablespoons into here. I need to make sure that all the ingredients are approximately the same size. So as my chicken is a 1.5 centimeter dice, I'm going to try and chop everything down to approximately the same size. Therefore, or when I take a tablespoon, I get a mix of everything in there, rather than if I had chunks, I'm just going to get a bit of carrot or a bit of something else. Whereas this way, I can make sure that I'm getting a bit of everything. So I'm just going to chop it one way, turn the pile round, chop it the other way, and then just very roughly, I'm just going to run my chopper through this pile of water chestnuts. Some pieces are bigger. If you see big chunks in there, just watch your fingers and just chop those down. And as you can see, I've now got a dice of water chestnut. So I'll place that to one side as well. Now my onions, I've left the root on. There's a reason for that. So I'm just going to take off the top. And again, I want a small dice. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to chop my onion into 1/2 centimeter slices that way. So you can see there's the root there. I've taken the top off. And now I've got 1/2 centimeter slices down the side. I'm now just going to use my fingers and pull the bunch back together again. And my 2 guiding fingers, I'm going to place the chopper against the flat of my knuckles. Okay, this way, hopefully I don't chop my fingers. It does happen, but not very often these days. And I'm just going to chop approximately a 1/2 centimeter slice again. When I get down to the end bit, I'm literally just going to chop around the root. And you can see, literally, I've got what was the end of the onion, which is now on the floor. So let me put this pile to one side. And then I've got another onion as well because my onions are so small. So again, I just take the top off. And then I'm going to chop it in half. And I do exactly the same thing. So I chop it into 1/2 centimetre slices, then into my dice. And again, now by leaving the root on, it just keeps the onion together as I'm chopping, makes it a lot easier. And again, there's my little root ball there, okay? So that's the onion, spring onion, and water chestnuts chopped. Now for the carrot, I'm just going to take the ends off. And I'm going to chop this into 3 pieces. Okay, first piece, I'm just going to literally chop these into tiles first of all. So you can see that I've got carrot tiles. I'm now just going to place them flat on my chopping board and then chop them into matchsticks. And then I'm going to turn the matchsticks the other way around and then chop them into that dice. So they're going to be very similar to the onions and the water chestnuts and the chicken. Now the carrot's going to add colour and a little bit of crunch into the dish. So there's one carrot. I do the same with this one. So first of all into tiles, lay my tiles flat on the chopping board. You can pile them, but there is a tendency they slip. And if you've got slipping veg, there's a chance that you're going to catch your finger, which we don't want to do on camera, especially since we're live. Take your time with this as well, guys. I tend to work quite quickly. Reason being is that I spent years and years and years in a professional kitchen, and you don't have time to take your time, to say the least. So I'm just going to pinch that pile together, use my knuckles as a guide, and just chop my dice. The last piece of onion back into matchsticks. And then into my dice. Now, you've probably seen the trick where they take a teaspoon, and this is a Chinese spoon, and they peel the ginger. Now, you'll find that in a Chinese kitchen, you'll have one piece of equipment, whereas in Western kitchens, you'll have a potato peeler, you'll have a paring knife, you'll have a meat cleaver, you'll have a vegetable knife. This is everything. This is everybody's tool. So this is my peeler. So I've got a little bit of dry bit there, so I'm going to take that off. And then with the skin, I'm just going to use my chopper, just very carefully, and I'm just going to remove the skin around this piece of ginger. So you can do it with a spoon, you can use a peeler, but as you can see there, literally it's just a bit of skin, and there's the ginger skin gone. I'm then gonna flatten this, just so just makes it a bit more stable for cutting. I'm gonna do exactly the same with the carrot now. Now I need approximately a thumb-sized piece of ginger, and again, if you like more ginger, by all means do it. So I've just chopped my ginger into tiles. I'm going to lay them flat again, and I'm going to chop these into very thin matchsticks. Now, if you like crunching on ginger, you can leave the ginger in matchsticks. Personally, I don't, so I'm going to mince mine right down. So once I've chopped it into matchsticks, I'm going to chop it into a very fine dice. And then just taking my chopper, remember my fingers are right on top, I'm just going to very carefully chop through this pile, gather it back together again and go the other way. Then the other way. And the more you do this, the finer the dice will be. Now I'm quite happy with that actually. So you can see I've got a fairly fine dice of ginger. And like I said, if you like a really strong infusion of garlic, chop it really fine. For me, I'm going to chop my garlic into a couple of large pieces just so I can pick it out because, like I say, I've got this slight intolerance now. So I'm going to give you literally 2 minutes, guys, to finish prepping, and then we can start cooking because everything is prepped now. Any questions? Fire them in, please. I'm going to have a swig of Pepsi. I do feel like Keith Floyd when I'm doing this sometimes. I think Keith Floyd used to drink wine though, didn't he? Oh yeah, that's nice. Now, if you are still chopping, still get your wok on. When we cook Chinese food, the wok has to be hot before we do anything. So get your wok on. If you are still chopping, just put it on low, but let that heat gather into that wok. It does take a couple of minutes, okay? If you don't like ginger, should I use the tiles and not mince? Yes, you should. So yeah, so if you leave the ginger whole, fry it off at the very beginning, which I'll show you in a second. And then literally at the end of cooking, you can just pick big pieces of ginger out and you won't be crunching on that then, okay? But then also as well, if you chop the ginger really fine, you'll find that it cooks right through the dish and you don't find, you're not crunching on it. I'm not a big fan of crunching on ginger. So yeah, so that's why I've done a mince. So either of the two really. Now, when you're cooking with a wok, obviously we don't have thermometers and stuff. It really is the hand test. If you hover your hand approximately 10 to 12 inches or 30 centimeters above your wok and it starts to feel uncomfortable, you know your wok is hot, okay? If you can hold it there like me at the moment, it's not hot enough yet, okay? So just let that gather some heat. Any questions at all? It's a very one-sided conversation. So this is it, you see. So when we're making TV programs, there's lots of editing, and obviously when we're doing it live and we've only got 6 minutes, the 6 minutes goes like that. When you're trying to do a cook along for half an hour, 45 minutes, try talking to yourself for half an hour, 45 minutes. It's hard work. It really is. But I do it so well. Did someone just say that? Oh, I can hear the squeak of the board. Have I got a question coming in? Oh no, that's been rubbed out. Let's have a look then. So we are fascinated by your chopping. Oh, thank you. It's practice. It's actually slave labor if mum and dad are watching. Growing up in a we grew up above a Chinese restaurant. So mum and dad had a restaurant in the middle of the city centre. And then at the age of, I think I was about 10 years old, they bought another restaurant with living accommodation above. This is where the Wan children grew up. And it just meant it was so easy for mum and dad literally to buzz upstairs and say, we're really busy, we need your help. So we literally spent our entire childhood working in the restaurant. Can you run through the process so far? Yeah, okay, so it's all about prep at the moment. So we've diced our chicken. So our chicken's diced into a 1/2 centimetre slice. We've pretty much done the same with the onion. And again, if you like onion, put as much in as you like. The spring onion, you can chop really fine, but I've left mine in approximately 1 to 2 centimetre slices. I've then diced some water chestnuts. I've diced some carrot. I've minced some ginger, and I've left my garlic into quite large pieces so I can hopefully pick it out later. So I'm not chomping on garlic because it tends to linger with me. We've not measured out the sauces. Chinese cookery. So as much as I've written quantities in all of the books that I've written, Chinese cookery is all about eyeing it. Okay, so you put a little bit in, give it a taste, and then you adjust the seasoning. So for the seasoning, we've got oyster sauce, dark soy sauce, Shaoxing rice wine, or you can use dry sherry or red wine, and a little bit of sugar. And we're going to finish it off with some sesame oil. Can you make it without nuts? Yes, of course you can. So yeah, take out the water chestnuts and take out the cashews by all means. And remember, these recipes are there as a guideline. So take out anything that you're allergic to or you don't like, okay? Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but my wok is smoking. It's now nice and hot. So first thing, I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil. If you're being really healthy, at this point, you can use your spray oil. So by all means, get your spray oil out. I'm going to add, there's about a tablespoon and a little bit I put in. This should be enough for 2 people as a starter or 1 person as a main meal. Okay. Now I'm going to add my spring onions. because I want to infuse my oil with those Chinese aromats, followed by my ginger. And straight away, guys, I don't know if you can see, I've started to get some colour on those bits already. At this point, now the wok heat has lowered ever so slightly, I'm going to add my garlic, because it has a tendency to burn. That's why I didn't want to put it in at the beginning. So in goes my garlic. What was that? Can you use any other lettuce? Yeah, you can use little gems. You can use anything you can get hold of, round lettuce. Our water chestnuts. Tinned, yes. Sorry, I didn't read it. Sorry, I couldn't read the writing. Yes, they're tinned water chestnuts. So they're just held in water. And my mum says hi. So say hello to my mum, everybody. Okay, so my aromats now are taking on some colour. So I'm releasing some of that flavour. I'm now going to add my diced chicken. Now, you will find, depending on which kind of chicken breast you're using, it does leach a little bit of water. So what we're going to do at this stage, we're going to fan out the chicken so it covers the bottom of the wok, if you can see that. And we're going to leave it alone. Now, the idea being is that I want to take some colour onto that chicken. Remember, it's all about injecting these flavours. So if I can get a little bit of caramelisation, so it's going to release some of its natural sugars, it's going to add flavour to the dish. I'm using vegetable oil. Now, there are purists out there that say you can't use olive oil. It's your dish. If olive oil is all you have, use olive oil. You can use canola oil, you can use sunflower oil, you can use coconut oil, whatever oil you've got. Okay, quick stir now, guys. Now, I'm going to try and find you a bit of chicken that's browned. So I don't know if you can see in there, but you can see how the chicken is starting to take on a bit of colour now. So that's that caramelisation that I'm talking about. And because the chicken is cut into really thin, small diced pieces, it cooks really, really quickly. Okay, at this point, I'm going to add my onion. So in goes my onion. Oh, my nose has just started to run for some reason. So I do apologise if you hear me sniffling. Now, same thing again, guys. I'm going to, sorry, I've got to wipe my nose. I'm sorry, it's running. Fan out your onion again. So it's literally on the bottom of the pan. And the same thing we did with the chicken, guys. We're going to leave it alone. Now, in a Chinese kitchen, we're normally cooking on a kitchen on a Chinese range, which is like literally a Bunsen burner times 1,000 that sits under the wok. Sorry, thank you. Sits under the wok, so things cook a lot quicker. Because we're using like gas or induction or electric hobs when we're at home, obviously things do take a little bit longer to cook through. So just give it that time, okay? I don't know if you can hear, if I get my microphone, you can hear it sizzling, but it's not really ferocious at the moment. So I just need to try and get that heat back into the bottom of that wok. So we're frying again. Remember, this is stir frying, we're not stir boiling. So let's just make sure we get some of that heat in there, okay? Also as well, I can just see like little tiny puddles, well, not puddles, but little tiny bits of water. This is obviously the onion's now leaching its liquid. So I've got to try and cook that out a little bit, okay? Also as well, do you not find that onions, when they're brown, taste a lot better than just sort of like boiled or stewed onions? So let's try and get some colour into those onions now. So we're not going to rush this at all. So please, if you do have any questions, fire them in, because this is a good time to do so. We'll have a quick tidy up. A clean kitchen is always a happy kitchen in my eyes. Another swig of Pepsi. No questions. So what do you want to know? Any gossip? What can I tell you? So management are shaking their head. I'm not allowed to talk. Not allowed to talk gossip. So. Bit of gossip's always fun, isn't it? So. Right, I'm going to show you now. So whereas before we put those white onions in, okay, now have a look at the colour of that dish. You see the brown? So we're starting to get that caramelization into those onions now. Oh, pinging everywhere. Okay, at this point, guys, I'm going to put my crunchies in last. So let's get the carrots in first of all. So that's for colour and crunch, water chestnuts for the crunch, and also that water chestnut flavour, which is really nice in this dish. We'll give that a really quick stir around. And again, just let the heat do its thing. Now, at this point, guys, I'm going to add some sugar. Again, you don't have to use sugar, especially if you're sort of like on one of these diets. You can use an alternative. And we're only going to put in around about half a tablespoon. But again, you can leave this out. It's completely up to you. What's your favourite dish to cook? It depends what mood I'm in, if I'm completely honest. I cooked a Chinese roast duck the other day. It took 2 days to cook because there's a lot of preparation. And I loved the whole process. Whereas other days, I just want something that's really quick and easy. It's a bowl of noodles or something. So it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in, really. So I'm going to let's break this down a little bit, approximately half a tablespoon of sugar. And I'm just going to sprinkle this around the dish. That's going to be followed. What is the veg alternative for this dish? So if you are cooking this dish and you want a vegetarian alternative, you can use very small cauliflower florets, very small broccoli florets. Okay, remember they will cook just that little bit quicker than the chicken as well. So you might want to add that in at a later stage. You can use tempeh, you can use tofu, you can use corn, you could even use mushrooms. So a diced mushroom. If you are doing the mushrooms, what I'd probably do is fry the mushroom first, then take it out, and then cook everything else and put the mushroom in at the end, just so you actually get that fried mushroom flavour or taste, okay? I'm going to add approximately a teaspoon of dark soy. In fact, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of dark soy. So that goes in. Let's not waste that. Oh, look, it's ran all the way down my bottle. Do you have to use sugar? No, you don't have to use sugar. You can use honey or you can just eliminate it altogether. I'm then going to add approximately 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce because remember, we're not using salt. So I need to get the flavour in there. So there's one, about 2.5 actually, of oyster sauce. So in that goes. And I'll not waste that either. I didn't do this when I was working in the professional kitchen. I didn't do this, honestly. There was no licking fingers and stuff. So let's give that a really good mix. So I didn't read that. What was that? Veg alternative to oyster sauce. So a mushroom stir fry sauce, which you can buy from most Oriental supermarkets, or you can make your own. Now, there is a recipe for that in the back of my vegetarian, vegan, Chinese takeaway cookbook, and I will put that recipe onto the website in the next couple of weeks, okay? Okay, so everything's cooked. So the last thing we're going to do, well, not the last thing, but now is the time we put in this Shaoxing wine. Now, we don't put it until this stage because we still want to try and maintain some of that pungent, fermented wine taste. And I'm going to add approximately 1 tablespoon. And that literally gets stirred through the dish. Just wipe my bottle off. I'm going to switch off the heat. Just wipe my chopper. Give my chopping board a quick wipe. And then if we grab our serving dish. Now, so just make sure that wine is well mixed into that. And then we're literally going to serve this in the middle of this bowl plate thing. So I'm getting that fermented, pungent wine smell coming through as I'm serving that, okay? We're now going to add literally half a teaspoon of sesame oil, which is just going to give it that background nutty note. These are just salted cashew nuts. So I'm going to take a handful and I'm going to crunch them and sprinkle those on top. And then I'm going to wipe my hand. And there we have it, guys. Chicken Yuk Sung cooked in real time, apart from the prepping of the chicken. Doesn't take very long. And the more you do this dish, the quicker it gets. It is a really healthy, fresh dish to have at lunchtime or even part of a main meal. And to serve this properly, Steph, if you're looking or watching, we're literally going to take a lettuce leaf. We're going to get literally 2 tablespoons, maybe add a few more cashew nuts on top. And then literally, we're just going to make like a burrito and we eat it just like this, which I'm not going to do on camera because I end up always spilling it all down my face and stuff. All right. So, and there we go. If you have any questions, guys, please do fire them in. I'm going to be with you for a couple more minutes and then I shall let you go and eat your lunch. Any questions? I think there might be a slight delay as well, guys. So we will give you a second or two just to try and let it catch up, just in case there is. No, thumbs up. Brilliant. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please go and enjoy your lunch if you have done the cook along. If you haven't, I'm sure this video will be posted later and you can have a go at cooking it yourself later. All right. So have a fantastic day. And thank you again for having me and asking me to come on board. All right. Bye-bye.